The curse is real.
Hello and welcome to The Curse is Real, a Once Upon a Time podcast. We will be discussing spoilers and there will be some foul language during the course of the show, so just giving you guys a heads up. I'm Martin.
I'm John.
I'm Katie.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jesse.
And today we'll be starting off with a brand new segment where we talk about what comments you guys have been leaving on the podcast itself, because you guys have some pretty interesting theories and questions and complaints about Mike talking too much. So feel free to somebody want to start off with one of the comments on the video.
Go ahead.
I don't want to anymore. All right. The first comment was actually one of the first comments on the episode that we did. It was from Ishtar saying about how Rumpel retains his memories. The creator said that hearing Emma's name was the trigger that got him to remember, and he only remembered once Emma came to town and said her name. So what I'd like to, I'm going to let you guys talk because I actually have concrete proof as to why that's BS. So why don't you guys discuss that first?
For me, it doesn't really make sense as much. Like, it just makes sense that he would have known the whole time and that he engineered the curse that way. And especially in the first episode, you know, if hearing her name would have triggered the memories, I would think that there would have been a reaction from him, even a very small one, because, you know, he is very restrained in Storybrooke, but there wasn't. He just kind of was very creepy and said, "Oh, you enjoy your stay," and made you immediately wonder if he did know everything.
Well, he kind of did have a reaction, but it was much more of a, aha, things just got interesting, than a light bulb going off. It was very mute, but it seemed he was recognizing something he expected. It did not at all seem like, you know,
they made a big deal out of it when the other characters did it.
The thing about the way they introduce him, you have to realize when the creator of the show says something like, well, he remembered it when he heard her name, you have to assume that they wrote it that way and they wrote it consciously doing that. I mean, even if it was supposedly retconned, that they have to have retconned it consciously knowing how they set up that scene. And if you watch the scene where he's first introduced in Storybrooke, he passes across the camera as a shadow, like they're introducing this horror villain that's stalking Emma, and then before she even says her name, he's just there as if by magic, and they're definitely introducing him as if he's got this evil motive going on. So why go to all that trouble of doing that if he's just magically remembering right then and there? I don't know. Well,
to be fair, a case could be made to say that Mr. Gold, his alter ego, might be like Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah.
In that he might be dark, mysterious. He's in a position of power, so he's probably a douchebag. You know, that kind of thing. So and look, he's got that whole. I mean, later on we learn he's got that whole backstory with the fairies, or their counterparts, the nuns, about how he hates them and how he's abusing his powers over them and stuff like that. So he's already kind of like that. So a case could be made for that. My evidence that he knew about this. How would he have procured Henry for Regina if he wasn't Rumpelstiltskin and didn't know the significance of Henry? The fact that he did, that proves. Why would he just, he happened to get, of all the kids in the world up for adoption, he happens to get the one that is Regina's grandchild. Step-grandchild, right?
Regina's grandchild?
Yeah, no, step-great-grandchild. No, technically, Regina's step-great-grandchild.
Oh, yeah.
Technically, that's true.
Technically, yeah. Sorry, I stumbled a little bit there.
Confusing family tree, right?
Yeah, seriously. I think that's BS. I think that they might have been questioned that, and they either didn't think it through, or they changed their mind halfway through writing, or something like that. But clearly, it's a plot hole. It's a plot hole. It is what it is. It's not like... It doesn't mean that oh man, I'm never going to watch this show again because there's a plot hole, but it is a pretty obvious writing hole there. So,
and it's one of those situations where you're like, well, you're trying to act like you had it planned the whole time, but you didn't. So don't act like you did.
To be fair, how would you go about not acting that way if you were a professional TV writer? Are you actually going to admit, oh yeah, we fucked up?
Well, I mean, it's not a case of fucking up. It's a case of saying, well, we hadn't thought about that. Because, like, in Season 1 of Battlestar Galactica, there's a whole subplot where one of the main characters is stuck on Caprica, and the Cylons are, like, manipulating him. And the writers admitted that until the 7th episode of the first season, they had absolutely no idea why the Cylons were even manipulating him, or why they were even, like, continuing to focus on him. They just wanted to figure it out as it went along. So they could just say that. There's nothing unprofessional about that.
No, there's nothing unprofessional about it, but it also this is one of the problems I had with Lost, is that it was clearly one of, and these are the same writers as Lost, so that's why it's relevant.
Is it the same writers? Because I thought they were just producers.
Well, I'm not 100%
They
sure.
write about half
Either
the
way,
episodes.
Either way, they're both mysteries. They both have mysteries, and I guess my problem is that a good mystery is planned. It's not something where you just keep writing until it sounds good. You just, you plan it in your mind, and you make it so that way there are hints to the solution of the mystery, but still keep it from the viewer. If you can do that with red herrings, whatever, and then when the dramatic reveal comes and the viewer figures it out, they should be able to reread or go back and look and say, oh my God, there were signs everywhere. That makes sense. It's one of the coolest things about mystery novels and stuff like that, is that, if they're planned and they're really well written, you can go back and say, oh, how did I not know?
It's very difficult to do that with the TV show, though. I mean,
it is more difficult to do that with the TV show. I will give you that. But you can't also insist that, oh, it's like a cleverly written mystery or anything like that if they don't have things planned. So we'll find out just probably exactly how much they did have planned, and if this is going to go onto my shit list with Lost.
I was going to say, we should not get Martin and Mike on the discussion of why Lost is
I don't want to go
not a
into
good
that.
show.
I don't want to go into that too much, but the reason I was bringing it up is because the reason that I have my problems with Lost is because it made itself look like it was a planned mystery, and then it really wasn't. Most of it, 99% of the mysteries, they had no idea what they were planning, or it really, really appears they had no idea what they were planning until it actually came up. There was nothing clever about it. You can't just go back and rewatch it and think, oh, that was clearly a hint towards this. For most of the mysteries. The next comment is, just thought I'd bring up a point. Regina didn't have to have a reason to exchange the curse for the sleeping potion. If you remember in the Hansel and Gretel episode, Regina had them go into the blind witch's house and steal a poisoned apple. That's by Shadowflame249, which means I was right.
Yeah. It's an interesting point. I totally actually did forget about that when we were watching it through again. Though, John, you made a point about that, right? About she got the curse from Maleficent, but she didn't say anything about an apple.
That is the problem, that she didn't mention anything about an apple, when it turns out that it was an apple that they used on Snow White, and it was the apple that she got from the Hansel and Gretel episode. So it's like, where does this sleeping curse come into anything?
I don't know. I don't really have an answer for that one. It's just if it's plausible. You could say that maybe she got the sleeping curse from Maleficent, and then had to put it in something and decided to put it in an apple, and then something weird happened with the blind witch. I don't know. You could make that argument, but as of right now, it doesn't look too likely.
You could also make
a little more convoluted.
I mean, you could also make the argument that there's just other stuff that we just don't know about yet. There are a lot of holes in this story, so that's fine.
I think it's more effective to put the sleeping potion in an apple, because what else, it's a little less evil if you just go up to someone and go sleeping potion and just spray a bunch of stuff in their face. The apple's a little more
Have you tried that though? Because I think we have that in the real world.
I have not tried that, actually. Oh,
I want to chloroform somebody and say sleeping potion.
Well, I mean, I bet a lot of kids would actually take their cold medicine that puts them to sleep if it was in an apple instead of that nasty cough medicine.
yeah, come on, medicine makers.
Yeah, kids so well. They just love eating apples.
Medicine makers. That is
Medicine
the name.
makers? That's the name. I couldn't think of a company. I was like, crap, think of a company. Tylenol, damn it, don't say Tylenol.
Pharmaceuticals or something. Medicine makers.
All right, we have one more question, and it's not question, but comment, and it's fairly long, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just summarize it and then give the name. Basically, they are saying, they're pointing out, why didn't Rumpelstiltskin use the whole please thing more often, particularly when he wanted his chipped cup back? And that's from Jebby Furs, Jebbifurz. You guys want to discuss that? Why didn't Rumpel use the please thing more often?
For me, like for that particular instance with the chipped cup, he didn't and there's that episode where they finally come clean to each other, that they both fully remember Fairy Tale Land and everything. But he would not want Regina to know that he has any sentimental attachment to something. That would be something she could hold over him. Like Belle, you know. However, and on from the overall picture, until that episode, she was never quite sure until like the episode maybe prior to that one where they finally come clean, that he knows he's Rumpelstiltskin. He wouldn't want to overuse it and thus give her a hint. You know, she gets enough of a hint when he uses it for like presumably the first time, when he says please for the first time to her, and she looks at him, and you can see that there's a look on her face like, oh, wait a minute.
Well, there is one possible problem with that. If he wanted to conceal it from her, why did he waste a please on just get out of my way the first time he used it?
Because that was kind of a natural thing to say, like get out of my way, please. It was a more like.
I think he was screwing with her at that point. I think he figured, you know what? Something is changing, and of course that something is Emma's hair. I'm going to start messing with her because game is on, and she don't know yet.
It could be, and it would fit his character. But in general, using that like all the time, anytime he wanted something before he wanted her to know that he remembered, that would be such a giant red flag. That's way too obvious for him to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, even when he admitted to it, he didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So those are all of the comments that we have for this particular episode that we'll be discussing. Feel free to leave more comments on this episode, and we will possibly discuss them on the next podcast.
Yes, let us move on to episode 4, which is called The Price of Gold. And I believe, Katie, you're going to take us through the fairy tale section.
Yes, I will. Okay, and the episode starts off with Cinderella about to be helped by her fairy godmother to go to the ball. Rumpelstiltskin appears before she can get like 2 sentences out, and actually makes her explode. And is about to walk away with her magic wand, which apparently he was looking for. And she pleads with him to help her anyway, and he does for a price with his famous, catchphrase, "All magic comes with a price." And doesn't say exactly what he wants, but something precious later on. So she signs his contract and goes to the ball. And then, later on, they celebrate the marriage of Ella and her prince, whose name we found out is Thomas, at a big party attended by Snow and Charming. And at the party, Rumpelstiltskin shows up and gives her the terms of his deal. He wants her firstborn child. And Ella, not wanting to give him that, decides to run away. Thomas catches her before she goes and decides to stand by her when she tells him the truth of what actually happened, and says they'll make a new deal to try and keep their child and try and double-cross Rumpelstiltskin. And so they meet with Charming and Grumpy, and they devise a plan where they've built a prison inside some of the older mines that they can keep him in. And they explain a plan where she meets with Rumpelstiltskin and says she wants to alter the deal because she's having twins, and she wants to give up her supposed second child, so that he will sign a new contract with a magic quill that will freeze him in place and screw up his magic. So she does. And sure enough, he's frozen, and they start to lock him up. And even though he seems to suspect in the beginning. And they lock him up, and he says, "Oh, no one breaks deals with me. Someone's going to pay the price." And Thomas goes to get Ella water when she becomes dizzy, and he disappears. And you see his cloak left behind by a well, and that's all that there is. And he says, "Oh, I haven't done anything, but someone had to pay a price." And that's kind of how the fairy tale world ends. We don't actually know what happened to the prince. And he threatens her that no matter what, until the debt is paid, she'll never see him again.
Okay, so quick discussion on Fairy Tale Land for episode 4.
I realized as I was watching this episode that when Rumpelstiltskin made a deal, he actually used an actual contract, and it's like the only time we've ever seen him use a contract.
Yes,
and,
I was going to say the same thing.
And it was actually the reason he does it, and the reason we never see him do it again is because in this episode it's a plot point, because he actually has to use his quill to sign the contract, but it never becomes a thing again. He usually just has a deal verbally.
I think
Yeah,
he knew. I think he knew about the quill the moment, at least by the time that he saw the quill, he knew exactly.
No. He has
No,
a
in the
contract
beginning.
the first time, and then
Oh
he
no,
has a
no,
contract.
I know that, but that means that if he knew that that they were going to devise a plan, and remember, this is Rumpelstiltskin we're talking about. It's possible that he might have known from the beginning of the episode that she was going to double cross him with that quill.
Which is
Now,
really
that's
weird.
a bit of a stretch. It's a bit of a stretch, but it is possible
It is
because he's
possible.
done things like this before.
Well, here's the thing though, like with all the other deals he's made, like before the Cinderella stuff, because Snow and Charming are together by the time that that Ella and Thomas get married. So clearly that the snow stuff with all the poison apple and the Queen and waking her up has happened already. He's made deals with both Snow and Charming before, and in no case was there a contract involved.
Hey, wait a minute. They capture him after Snow White and Charming are together.
Yeah.
The evil queen showed up at their wedding and threatened them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they promptly stomped downstairs to Rumpel sitting in prison.
Not necessarily
Well, they
promptly. Not necessarily promptly. There could have been a time gap.
Well,
There was a time
has
gap.
to be, but
No,
it can't
there
be a very
was.
big one. Because
No,
she's
no,
not pregnant
There
at the
had to
dance.
be. Yeah.
Yes, she was. She was pregnant.
Snow was?
Snow was pregnant when they went to see Rumpelstiltskin because she's been pregnant
No.
for as much as she's showing.
Exactly. But she wasn't... Oh, okay. Because I was going to say she wasn't pregnant when Cinderella got married. Or at least wasn't showing.
Right.
Yeah.
I think she was probably pregnant because I
So-
believe it's implied that she became pregnant on the wedding night.
I feel like she would probably have had to, just in terms of the time it took for Regina to get the curse going and everything. Like, I feel like it wouldn't have at least been longer than a year.
So what are you saying, Johnny?
So-
You're saying that this is a plot hole?
No, I'm thinking that the timeline here is awfully tight for this stuff to occur.
Anyone
Well,
else?
there's also the possibility that Snow and Charming hadn't had their wedding yet. I mean, that's a really there would be no reason for it since they're together, but they might not have had not have been married yet.
Engaged.
Yeah, it's always plausible.
Yeah.
Possible. I think that once there's more episodes out, no doubt at all, some fans, and heck, we could try it if we were interested.
Make a timeline?
We'll make a timeline.
Yes.
Once there's less gaps in it,
Should be interesting.
Yeah.
But regarding the contract stuff, if it is indeed, because obviously they have mentioned Rumpelstiltskin can see the future before, if this is indeed how precisely he sees the future, because he even knows that she's going to have a baby before anybody else does, aside from her, how is he able to see all this stuff, but the whole Belle thing is like completely out of reach for him? Like, he has no idea what happens to her or anything like that.
Well, I have just purely on the baby thing. I have a theory on that. Ella is marrying into royalty. The biggest thing for royalty in any European, like medieval country, was having heirs, and that's why having a firstborn given up is such a huge problem. In
No.
fairy tales and whatnot.
That's not what happened, guys. Did you not remember the awkward conversation between her and her father-in-law? I bet you're gonna have a baby soon, when they were dancing and stuff. He just
Well-
must have been spying on them.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, in general, the
That's not what he
whole
said,
thing
though.
with
No,
He
I'm
was like, "Oh, I
paraphrasing
hope
because
my-
I thought that it was awkward and hilarious at the same
okay.
time. That
Okay.
whole
It was.
conversation.
yeah.
It was
But
pretty
that's kind of my point, is that like having an heir was the most important thing to royal families, and so it would stand to reason that the first thing that they would try to do, in love or not, was try to have a baby. So
Yeah, but he very much knew when they were dancing she was already pregnant. So he had already sensed or divined that out.
Does that mean
I
that she
wonder-
had sex before marriage?
I wonder if part of why he couldn't sense Belle is that the evil queen grabbed her and threw her in her dungeon. It stands as a perfectly acceptable reason that her dungeons block scrying. So
Maybe.
magically viewing in, he can't see. That's a black hole to him.
well,
She could
hang
have
on a
anything
second.
in there and he might not know. And then jump into Storybrooke, he doesn't have those powers anymore.
Hang on a second, though. I mean, there's not a real timeline for this either, but in the episode with the dwarves, we see Belle in their tavern, and she's clearly had a broken heart.
Oh, yeah.
She's fine, and she's in the tavern, and
She's fine.
she's upset because she lost her love, but she's clearly fine.
I have this feeling. I have this feeling that he doesn't actually, literally, just see things that he wants to, or see the future, or anything like that. They must have some sort of explanation as to how he has this knowledge from stuff. But I have a feeling it would stand more to reason that he is a manipulative guy who has eyes everywhere, not literally, but like people or contacts or something, or manages to manipulate information out of people. He knows things because he asks or something.
Which is weird, because the one thing he would ask would be, is Belle okay?
Yeah. But if the queen keeps it a secret...
Well, how do you keep it a secret from Rumpelstiltskin, the guy who has eyes everywhere?
Well, if she's the only one who knows the truth, who's going to tell him?
Okay, here's an absurd jump. I'm not saying that this is right or not, but he spends an awful lot of time spinning threads of gold. They also often refer to the passage of time as a thread of time. What if his spinning the gold thread is how he divines the future?
Oh, interesting.
The short period after Belle leaves, he doesn't want to think about her. He doesn't want to talk about her. He doesn't want to be reminded. Nothing. So he's not looking for that. He's looking elsewhere.
He did say it helps him forget.
That is the explanation that makes the most sense.
I was going to make a point from the next episode, actually, that like when we see him spin the gold thread, he uses some of it to actually make a potion. So I was thinking that spinning the gold thread was like his main ingredient for creating magic. Or creating potions, rather.
Well, that's also possible. I mean, you know, time has knowledge, and knowledge is power. He's said that, so...
I'm interested to see on how like the more rules and stuff of the universe, just in general, and the specific items in here and the magic and everything. I'm interested to see if they actually explain any of this, or if it's just if the explanation is gonna be lol magic.
Did anyone make a mental connection between the well at the end of this episode and the well at the end of the season?
Yes.
Yeah, I did too, but Mike said I was wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong, because the well is the lake. If you remember, the lake that the lady was in that turned into a copy of snow, that turned into the well. Because if you remember, the inscription and whatever was on the well and was at the lake. Yeah, so no, it's not the same thing, but that is nice for you to, that's good for you to notice that.
But what the hell happened to what's his name? The prince dude. They hint at something happening, because something happens. He sees movement, and then he's gone.
Something happens to Thomas, and we don't know what.
Sure, I think they have something planned for it.
There's a fan theory out there that he is the Frog Prince after that. But here's why I don't think that's right. Rumpelstiltskin specifically says, until the debt is paid, you're never going to see him again. And interestingly enough, once we get to Storybrooke, she doesn't see Sean is his name until after Emma makes a deal with Gold that she can keep the baby.
Yeah, that's what they were going for, but that's more like I mean, I'm not saying that nothing is going to get clarified in Fairy Tale Land, but as far as that goes, that's kind of a more poetic thing, because they do have little lines that go back and forth between Fairy Tale Land and Storybrooke. They're not necessarily happening because the other thing happened, but they just tie into it, because, like, there's that line that Rumpelstiltskin has at the beginning of this, in the middle of this episode, where Cinderella says, just unmake the deal, and he says, that's not what I do. And then at the end of the episode, Emma asks him to unmake the deal, and he says, that's not what I do. So, I mean, it's there, but it's not a conscious thing.
Yeah, I like honestly how they make patterns between the two. It gives a good feel to the show.
I was going to say, this kind of struck me as a little strange. When they're at the ball and Rumpel shows up, Cinderella is so unhappy to see him. Like, I understand, he killed her fairy godmother. That's really freaking creepy. But he did help her, and she was so happy, and she happily signed the contract and knew exactly, like, that she was going to give him something. She might have been dreading what he was going to ask for.
Exactly. It's like Marlon Brando showing up and being like, he's here to collect on the offer that you can't refuse,
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I would have been a little bit less, like, angry to see him. I would have been like, okay.
She also could have been shocked.
It's so great to see you.
Yes.
You could have. Well, I mean, that's because it's you, Katie. But I mean, she could have just been. I think you might be mistaking some shock in her face for anger. I think it was just shock.
She doesn't want to see him. She's like,
oh sure, but I think that
what do you want?
I don't think she was angry about him. But the whole being snappy with like, what do you want, might be out of dreading the whole she owes him something.
Well, don't forget as well that Rumpelstiltskin is notorious in their world, and she actually says to the prince, whatever his name is, after she goes, like, literally the scene after that, she says it wasn't the fairy godmother, it was Rumpelstiltskin, and he's like, oh my god, that's terrible. So they all know what he's capable
the look on his face is like, what? He's like, I was stupid, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Never mind.
The only other thing I wanted to say, I mean, I did want to see Rumpelstiltskin sing Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, but one thing I really want to mention, and we haven't really mentioned it too much, but Robert Carlyle is so amazing.
Yes.
And this one thing that he does at the end of this episode, when she tricks him with the quill, well, tricks in inverted commas with the quill, and he's frozen and he says, no one breaks a deal with me, dearie. And it's so quiet. And any other actor would try and be like bigger and louder with that, because obviously he's just been completely betrayed and fooled and imprisoned. But he is so intimidating just with how quiet he's being, and how he's like I completely expected this, and you are so screwed right now.
I know.
Wait a minute.
Was so creepy. It was great.
I just had a thought. Rumpelstiltskin's magic is incredibly powerful, but he couldn't get out of that cell.
Right. And he's still
they
moving
designed
around.
it for him, so...
Right.
They designed it purely for him, so his magic wouldn't be...
I doubt he's the only person who has a grasp on magic in that world.
No, that's not what I mean. That's not what I'm getting at. When the curse kicked in, he wrote the curse. Is that how he retained his memory going into Storybrooke?
We don't know that. You brought that up last week, though, didn't you?
Right, but did he intentionally get captured here so that he'd be jailed in this cell he already knew would shield his magic? So that when the entire universe, as they knew it, gets sucked into this new world, it wouldn't affect his memories?
But he didn't keep his magic.
Not if you believe
not if you believe the writers, but of course he's not going to keep his magic. The magic goes away. There is no magic. But while the curse is going off, the magic wouldn't be able to affect him because
some magical items and things did survive there. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't understand that one, but
yeah, I think that's a good theory, but I don't think it's gonna hold. I think they're probably gonna explain something regarding how the prison was fashioned for Rumpelstiltskin, but I don't think it'll go in quite as in depth as that. Okay, so John, is it John?
Yes.
Yes. Storybrooke time.
yes, my name is John.
You
All right.
liar.
I don't know. Is this the fairy tale version of John or the Storybrooke version of John? Because you might have a different name.
Oh,
Well, in Fairy Tale Land, he's totally Martin. He totally has a British accent.
I'm not even going to try one.
I'll always find you, John.
All right.
I will always shot you in the butt, John. Always.
Oh no. Now people are going to ship us.
No.
Martin,
Oh, that's okay. We're shipping ourselves, apparently.
Yeah, seriously. How can you complain about other people when it's like...
Meanwhile, in Storybrooke, we open. Emma's walking Henry to school to get picked up by the bus. And when they split, Sheriff Graham comes up and offers her a job as deputy, figuring, okay, well, if you're going to stay, maybe you want something to do. So she says, I'll think about it. I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to go ahead and do that. Jump forward a little bit, and she's in the diner, and she gets some cocoa and probably spills it on herself. She asks to use the laundry room so she can wash her shirt off. She goes out back, washes the shirt. Someone comes in carrying pink sheets, and turns out it's Cinderella, a.k.a. Ashley. She's bringing some stuff in to wash it, and they have a short conversation back and forth about how she's going to give up the child because she doesn't know, and people are constantly telling her this and that, and she's not ready. They tell her she can't have it, she's not grown up enough, and Emma gives her this encouraging talk that, no, you need to take control of your life or people are just going to walk over you forever. So Ashley gets this into her head, and jump forward a little bit, she breaks into Gold's shop, and you don't really get why yet. She's in there looking for something, and Gold comes in. He either heard her or somehow knew. She ends up knocking him out and stealing something from him and taking off. The next morning, Gold goes to Mary Margaret's place looking for Emma, wants to talk to her, wants to hire her to find something and find someone. And basically he's looking for Ashley without really saying exactly that, and she doesn't pick up on it right away. So Emma starts on the trail, and Henry gloms on, keeps following her to her extreme frustration. She keeps telling him, no, you need to go away, no need, and he's just not listening. So she goes and she talks with Ruby, because she knows Ruby knows Ashley, And Ruby says, "Oh yeah, her ex Sean is kind of split up with her, and they haven't seen each other since the pregnancy." And so Emma says, "All right, well, is there anything I can try?" And she says, "Well, try talking to Sean. Maybe he knows where she is." So she goes to talk to Sean, and Sean's father interrupts before they can really get talking about anything, and says, "Well, I'm the one that broke the thing off. I'm the one that made the deal to give her child away." "Well, I don't get what you mean," Emma tries to tell him, and he says, "Well, I made the deal with gold for the money. So she's going to be very well off, so I don't see what the problem is." And this is when Emma realizes, this is what gold is after, the baby. And so she goes back to Ruby, and Ruby's car's gone. She goes inside. "Ruby, what happened to your car?" "Oh." And she realizes Ruby sent her to Sean just to get her to go away for a little while. She was hiding Ashley, and she gave Ashley a break to take off. So she admits, well, Ashley's leaving. She's going to Boston. She's going to try a start there. So Emma gets in her car. She's like, "Okay, I got to go catch her. I got to catch her before she gets to Boston." And Henry, boing, out of the back seat, scares the daylight out of her. And, "No, I'm coming along." "No, you're going home." "No," and they get into a little back and forth, which Emma, again, loses.
It's so important that he was there, though. It's so important. He was so crucial.
Yeah,
yes.
really.
Ultra crucial. The story just could not have continued without him. And they get to the town line, and sure enough, there's Ruby's car, crashed on a rock, and Ashley's off in the dirt, having the child. So Emma scoops her up, drives her to the hospital. She has the baby, healthy little girl, and Gold walks in. "Ah, you got what I wanted. How nice." And Emma challenges him. "No, you're not taking the baby. She's keeping the baby." "Oh, but I made a deal." "Yeah, I don't care." "No one breaks my deals." So they have a back and forth, and Emma basically convinces him, "You have to break this," and he agrees on one term, if she'll make a deal with him. And when she challenges him to find out what he wants, "I don't know. You'll owe me a favor." Doesn't specify what it is, doesn't specify the potential depth of it. She readily agrees. They shake on it. Ashley gets to keep the baby. She goes in, lets Ashley know, "You can keep the kid." She's very happy. And Sean arrives. He comes in. He apologizes for being an idiot, for running away, for cutting her off. Says he wants to be involved. And they have the happy little reconciliation. Jump back to Henry Land. Henry had been able to be out for the day because Regina was at a council.
Love Henryland.
Most miserable amusement park on Earth.
It's an amusement park that Martin spends so much time at.
Just a bunch of people running around saying, "The course is real." That's Henryland.
You must be this obnoxious to ride.
Regina had told him she had a council meeting that afternoon, and that she'd be home around 5 o'clock. So Emma rushes Henry home, and he runs inside. Well, her, quote, council meetings are her having sexual encounters with someone. She just doesn't want Henry to really know or understand that. So she's been calling them council meetings. So Emma has been thinking on it. She calls Graham and says, "Okay, I'll be the deputy. Fair enough, I'll take the job." And cut to him, and he's in the room Regina just left. He's the one Regina's sleeping with.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where the episode closes.
I have to say, this whole Storybrooke section was really beating you over the head with the whole women have a right to have children if they want to. I mean, I don't disagree with that sentiment, but it kind of became a little like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
A little. We got the message the moment she had that conversation with her in the laundry room. They had that conversation, and it was a very great scene, I thought. But then the rest of the episode was just them repeating the same sentiment. I'm like, okay, but
although it kind of made sense that like the in the storybook that like Sean's Thomas in Fairy Tale Land, and his father was very supportive of Ella when they were dancing and everything, and then in Storybrooke he's this giant douchebag who wants to keep them apart because she's not good enough for my son, type of thing. So it kind of made sense. I mean, you have a point. they really stuck us.
I was furious at him all during that scene. She was like, "Well, what are they supposed to do? Raise the kid in the back of a car?" And I was like, "Some people only have the back of a car." I was like,
he's like, "Well, they're to be pitied."
I'm very okay with that sentiment. I'm very okay with that idea, but I just felt like it was
a little too in our faces.
It was in our face, and also I don't really watch the show to hear about this stuff. I mean, I hate to say that, but I don't really watch. I mean, if
We
they started
watched
doing
for
that a
Henry,
lot-
of course. So
Yes.
Yes, he's enraptured by Henry's progression through life.
I mean, this never really. I mean, regarding the rest of the season, how much is Cinderella in? And I'm not saying
She's
that
in
they
one more
shouldn't-
episode.
I'm not saying they shouldn't focus on her for one episode just because of that, but it's so. Oh, it's like being beaten over the head with a message. I don't know.
There's also
Well-
there's also shoe references like everywhere.
Yes.
Martin, in regards to what you said, I think that the character episodes where it's just really backstory and stuff for some of the side stories, I think that's kind of how they all really are. Usually, most of them were kind of like
One central
had cer-
message.
yeah, really, and I think that was kind of part of it in this one. So yeah, it was a little cheesy or like a kid show kind of where it's trying to push a moral or something
That's
like
what
that.
I'm saying. Yeah, it
Yeah.
feels very much like a kid's show.
Yeah, and that's true, but I don't think it was that strong where it was really a big deal. And
Oh,
I think
I'm
that,
not saying
think
like
that
I
the,
hate the episode.
Oh yeah,
I'm
no,
just
no, I
saying-
understand. But I'm just saying it felt more. I mean, I think that's understandable, and it's not the only episode that has that kind of those themes.
Right.
One thing I kind of find interesting about Storybrooke in general, with Mr. Gold, he's kind of a creepy person in general, but he's not, impolite to people, but people really react to him the same way they react to him in Fairy Tale, with very much like apprehension and fear and everything. And yet he's kind of an asshole to the nuns, but he doesn't really seem to be that mean or nasty to anybody else.
I
He's
don't
just
think
a
he
little-
generally is nasty, though. It's with the deals where he's nasty.
I think it's beyond that because, and I was going to mention this, and I'm not sure how this ties in really because it kind of doesn't make sense. But even Henry had that reaction,
Yeah, Henry and
Henry doesn't know
Mary
much about him.
He does occasionally take people out to a cabin and beat them half to death, but that's about it.
Well, yeah, that happens later on, though.
Did anyone catch? And maybe I'm seeing too much into this. This is the first episode where you see anyone have a happy ending.
Yeah, like in Storybrooke, they have a pretty, quote unquote happy ending. I'd also like to say that this is one of the few episodes in general in Fairy Tale Land, one of the first episodes, I should say, where stuff goes wrong in Fairy Tale Land and doesn't get resolved.
Yeah.
Like for a land that's supposed to be like fairy tales and happy endings, okay, Ella marries her prince and has that kind of happy ending, but then her prince disappears because they made the deal with Rumpelstiltskin. And there are so many episodes in the show now where in Fairy Tale Land the characters just get screwed over. That makes for really good stories. But then you have to kind of wonder what they lost in Storybrooke,
Right.
Well, it's also the first, I believe, side character episode, really, because the
That's
first
true.
3 episodes were all really based on the
right,
main
yeah.
storyline. So
It was Emma, then the Queen, then Snow, and Prince Charming. It was the 3 pivotal characters. Yeah.
yeah, I don't even
Yeah.
consider those character episodes as much as I consider them. It's main plot episodes.
I forgot one thing about Fairy Tale Land.
Oh, sure.
I want to give a shout out to Sassy Black Fairy.
You like her?
Sassy Black Fairy. She's cool.
Yeah, she is cool. I liked her too. I'm kind of sorry that we never saw her like with the fairies later on.
Well, that's because she was dead.
Dead.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I'm kind of sad we didn't see her exploded remains everywhere, hanging out
What
with
do
the
you
fairies.
think?
Okay, hold on.
Pile of
How funny
Gotta
would it have
see
been if there were still limbs left over or something? I'm sorry, I would have laughed. That would not have been,
A wing just flies into Cinderella's face.
Well, wait, hang on. The dwarf episode where Grumpy meets one of the other fairies, there could have easily been like a scene with her in it that was like a throwaway scene, or like in near the end when the fairies help Snow out or anything. You never see. I mean, well, actually, no, that's later on. I'm sorry. No, that isn't. It's before Snow wakes up, gets poisoned and everything. That's all before the Cinderella story. So she could have easily been around. So I'm kind of sorry that she wasn't.
Maybe she will be.
it's so sad when she explodes, but it was very I found it very clever that they Cinderella is all sad because she can't go to the ball, and a fairy godmother, it's like, oh, I've heard this
Then
before,
bam!
whatever.
And
And
then
then just
boom.
explodes and Rumpelstiltskin's there. I was like, oh my god, this is something new.
I just want to say one thing. The only real name significance that I found for characters in this episode was Ashley Boyd, which is kind of obvious. Ashley, comes from like a name that's like, ash tree clearing, and like, she sleeps among the ashes. And then also in German, the name for Cinderella is Aschenputtel, or whatever, however you pronounce that.
Aschenputtel.
Yeah. And so that's a whole tie into the ash thing that's associated with Cinderella. So that's really the only thing that I found.
I just want to comment that I want "I will have your baby" as my ringtone. I was like,
I will have your baby.
have your baby.
But the one thing I wanted to mention, I think this is the last point I have regarding this episode in general, but there's a whole running like thread. This is why Henry's in the episode. Basically, there's a running thread where he's like, we have to think of a different code name for both of us, and then at the end he's like, I've thought of a code name for you, and then she asks what, and he says, I'm not sure you're ready yet, and I'm like, what the hell was that? What were they insinuating?
And he never tells her. She never gets a code name.
I like how she named herself Pumpkin at first. And he's like,
he was like, no, I have a better one.
Not name yourself fucking Pumpkin.
But I think what they're going for is the code name he wants to use for her is Mother, but she isn't ready to be his mother yet.
Oh.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Oh.
Which is kind of a sweet sentiment, but they never really hit it home because we didn't. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I first watched the episode, I didn't even think about that. I was like,
either.
Is he going to say something? I don't know.
Your code name is "The Curse is Real."
I think that
You were ready for it, but now you are.
I think you're right, Martin. I think that's what they were planning. And it's possible that they forgot, because I think it would have made more sense for him to reveal that towards the end of, like, maybe the last episode or something like that, or of the first season. I feel like we should have heard it by now. I think they might have forgotten about it, or maybe it's going to be more significant. I don't know. Maybe it'll be even more ground.
Super Pumpkin.
Super Pumpkin. Oh my god, I want that to be her code name.
All right, from now on, whenever we're talking about Emma, we're talking about the
Super Pumpkin.
Super
The whole
Pumpkin.
fight sequence in the final episode. Super Pumpkin. Okay, so moving on to episode 5, which is what is it called?
The Still Small Voice.
That Still Small Voice, and I believe, is it me doing the? Ah, yes, I'm talking about Fairy Tale Land. Okay, so basically the episode opens. Well, I don't think the episode opens with it, but the Fairy Tale Land section opens with puppeteers putting on a play, which is this very hokey. So it reminds me of a scene from the Fable video games, with a bunch of people gathered around and they're watching a puppet show, which is like it's almost like Punch and Judy, only with like medieval characters.
It reminded me of Hunchback of Notre Dame, actually.
Oh yeah.
And I don't mean to constantly be bringing this up, and I noticed that I have been, but it reminded me of Shrek.
Oh yeah.
It did, yeah.
Because it was kind of like a parody of the old tales with the dragons and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
you see little Jiminy walking around and stealing people's stuff, and then after a while, he's like, you realize that he's with his parents on they're like a traveling band of people who trick people into watching their show, and then they steal all their money and they just swindle people basically. It flashes forward to when Jiminy is an adult, and he's like 20 or 30 years older, but his parents look the same. And he meets a boy who gives him an umbrella when it's raining. Oh, I forgot to mention that as a boy, he mentions that he likes crickets a lot. And he meets a boy in the rain when he's packing up the show or setting up the show, and they have a conversation, and the boy gives him his umbrella and then leaves. And then after a while, Jiminy visits Rumpelstiltskin with some of the stuff he's stolen from people. And names, is that right?
Yeah, he asks him for their names as well.
Oh yeah, he does. He says, "Who are the people that these came from?" Yeah. And we learned that Rumpelstiltskin is giving him gold thread in return. But then Jiminy says that he wants something to free him from having to deal with his parents all the time. So Rumpel gives him a potion, which he, as we mentioned, fashions out of the gold thread. And Rumpelstiltskin basically says, use this and it'll deal with your problem. Then Jiminy and his parents con a young couple into letting them stay, suggesting that they're fleeing from a plague, and they say that the only way to be safe from the plague is to use elf potion, which has this amazing sequence where they are like pretending that they're pretending that you guys have to have this elf potion, and Jiminy says, "Oh God, you're gonna die. You need elf potion." It's just amazing. Fucking, he's so sarcastic. And then Jiminy, they give the family the fake elf potion, which is supposed to be the thing that the parents are swindling people into giving them money for. And then Jiminy goes outside, is like, well, this is bullshit, you guys shouldn't be doing this, and then I'm fed up of it, and he throws the potion that he thinks he got from Rumpelstiltskin on them, but it turns out that they cleverly swapped out that potion with rainwater, And the thing that they gave the family was actually the potion that Rumpelstiltskin gave him.
I think it wasn't that they switched it with rainwater. I think they switched it with the thing that they were initially going to give the family.
Yeah, they were going to say the elf tonic is the rain. It was just rainwater.
Yeah, so
But Archie should have put the thing that Rumpelstiltskin gave him. He should have put it in an apple instead of
Yeah.
Yeah,
sleeping
that would-
potion.
Yeah, nobody would have suspected that because he would have. Yeah, but yeah, he runs back into the house, and the couple have been turned into a pair of very disturbing-looking wooden puppets. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, they actually got Brad Dourif in a future episode, and he played obviously the famous evil doll Chucky. So it would have been great if he'd been in this episode and he got turned into a wooden puppet, a terrifying little wooden puppet. I thought that'd be cool. But then the little boy from earlier in the episode, who gave him his umbrella, comes to the house, and you realize that it's his parents, and that's pretty much the most messed up thing ever.
It was. I have not been creeped out by anything in Once Upon a Time as much as I was by those puppets. Against that,
it was
yeah.
so creepy.
We had actually
was
seen
so
them in a
s-
previous episode as well. And
Episode
In
4.
Cinderella's.
it was a throwaway shot, and
In-
you're like, huh? And then
in
you see them
Gold's
in this one.
Gold's shop.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
soon as I saw those, as soon as you see those dolls for the first time, you remember them. So when
Yeah.
you see them in the Geppetto
Oh, I
episode-
didn't. I didn't notice it until I rewatched the
Really?
episode 4. Yep.
Oh, I recognize them immediately.
Yeah.
But and then it flashes forward more, and Jiminy's wishing very loudly, apparently, that he wants to bring his parents back, and she says she can't do that. So he tries again, and the wish turns him into a cricket with a suit and umbrella, like Jiminy Cricket, obviously. And he tries to talk, and he's talking like a cricket, and it's like, I really hope there's an episode in the future where he has to learn dictation as a cricket.
Because he talks,
Well, no,
right?
It'll
he
be like the
talks
Meowth
later on,
episode
yeah.
where he learns how to use English and everything, and it's all because
He learns
wants
it to impress a girl cricket.
Yeah, to impress a girl. She smells me smells.
Talk to Meowsy. But Cricket, Jiminy Cricket, he talks, right? In the
Yes.
episode.
He does talk,
the
yeah,
council
he does
meeting.
actually
So
talk.
they need to explain that.
He
Yeah,
talks
no,
in-
he'll eventually. I think if he doesn't know how to talk, or if he just wasn't talking on purpose or whatever, he's going to learn it.
yeah,
So
he talks in the pilot, and he talks in the episode that focuses on Pinocchio.
yeah, no, that was clearly planned because even before this episode, he was talking as a cricket.
Right,
So
right.
yeah,
And then the Blue Fairy tasks him to find the boy that he has obviously wronged unintentionally, but he's ruined his life, basically. And she says, go find the boy, his name's Geppetto, and you're like, ah, and he flies
And-
off.
And I want to say, in terms of timeline, Rumpelstiltskin is clearly well established as, a maker of magic and everything and gold at this point. Geppetto is an old man by the time Snow and Cinderella come
Oh,
around.
yeah.
Yep.
So this is at least like 70 plus
70,
years.
Yeah,
Yeah, it kind of
And
confused me
just,
because
just between little boy Geppetto and old man Geppetto, so he's been around for like 100 years or more.
you know what might be interesting
What?
if
What?
that's happening around the same time as the Rumple stuff.
What do you
No.
mean? What? What do you mean?
What
No,
if
no,
the-
no. There's no
what if-
way. There's no way because he's talking like this theory and in the Rumpel
Oh,
stuff.
right. That's right. But that is interesting though. That because of Rumple making his appearance there. So if we do the math, then I believe I did the research and
That's
the
why you
original
listen to this
Rumple stuff
podcast
was
for
supposed to
math.
be the original Rumple stuff was supposed to be about 100 years before the events of the curse, and then
this is
and
math.
this
I
is
didn't
about
agree
70.
to this.
This is about 70 years before the events of the curse. So that means that this is about 30 years after the Rumple stuff, for the initial Rumple stuff.
What
Okay.
confused me, I guess, the only explanation I can have is that when Jiminy was turned into a cricket, that he stopped aging. He had to because Geppetto
She
was
said
great.
the Blue Fairy actually has a line where she says, "You will live as long as you need to help him."
Oh, okay.
Oh.
He's immortal.
Yeah.
He's an immortal cricket.
Yes.
Yeah, because if he was transferred to the real world, he'd be like 200 years old or something.
Yeah. You know
Look-
what I thought was like sad, but sweet at the same time. His umbrella has a whole new significance now.
Oh.
Like, because it's the umbrella the boy gave him. That's what he has as a cricket, and that's what he has with him.
Really? Did it
and
shrink down?
Yeah, well, he has an umbrella with him as a cricket. Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm pretty sure it's the boy's umbrella.
That's really cool.
Probably.
Yeah.
See, it's a really depressing episode, but it's very heartwarming as well.
Yeah. Oh
All
my
the
god.
fields.
I was so heartbroken when the potions were switched and everything. So I was really rooting for like poor downtrodden Jiminy to like finally stand up to them and get his way, and it didn't happen.
Katie is such an optimist. She always thinks that everything's going to work out okay.
I am.
It's people like you that they write this for, because they know they want you to expect the exact opposite. I also, you know, up until this episode and after this episode, this changes. But up until and including this episode, Archie has been pretty important in Storybrooke.
Yes.
And then nothing.
Well, he wasn't in the last episode just because it didn't involve him.
Right. But I mean, like, for the most part. I mean, I know he's in.
He wasn't in the pilot. He was in the pilot briefly, and then he's in episode 2.
But even the fact that he was in the pilot briefly when all of these other characters weren't, you know? Like, I feel like they were building him up to be one of the main characters, and then all of a sudden they must have decided against it.
Well, they've been doing the same with Ruby and Granny, though. They've been in almost every episode, too.
Yeah, but see, that continued. That continued a lot longer than and we've seen Ruby and or her granny have been in almost every episode. In one way or another, in Fairy Tale Land or in Storybrooke. Archie, after this, nothing.
Well, you know, again, like I read that there had been scenes that were written for him.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying it feels like I'm just saying
you're putting a pin in it. You're putting a pin in it. And saying, this is
I guess it just felt like he was going to be one of the main characters that we would be seeing in most episodes in one way, shape, or form.
Not nearly as important as Super Pumpkin.
Super Pumpkin.
I think it's cute that Jiminy wishes on a star, just like Geppetto wishes on a star for Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm seeing all these tie-ins that you guys are bringing up now. I never noticed them before.
Did anyone else notice he's like a cricket, like he is in Pinocchio?
I didn't notice that either.
It's like the same thing.
I did a little research because there's a couple of lines in Storybrooke about like crickets being there or not being there, and I was wondering if crickets had any significance. It has significance to Jiminy because Jiminy is a green cricket, and this apparently I read this like online. I think I double checked it. In Brazil, crickets have significance depending on what color they are. And in one part of Brazil, a green cricket is a sign of hope.
Aww.
And a black one is a sign of illness, and a gray one is a sign of money coming into your life. But
that's
green meaning hope.
Racist. The black ones are for illness.
But green meaning hope, and Jiminy being green, that's just kind of a neat little thing.
Well, ill can be good. You can be like, this is ill, dog.
No, illness.
Oh, that was bad. That was bad. The black crickets,
terrible.
this is ill. Oh.
Wow.
You mean
Martin,
sick.
that was
I think
really
sick has been better.
Not
sick,
touching that.
yo. You know,
Oh, come on.
No, you're too white, Martin. I'm sorry. Okay, why don't we move to Storybrooke?
Storybrooke. Jesse, take us to Storybrooke.
All right, let's go to Storybrooke. Okay, so it starts off and there's a therapy session with Henry and Archie. And Henry is like, you know, associating his therapy work with being a conscience because he was Jiminy Cricket, you know. And but then we go, next scene is Emma takes her deputy badge and, you know, because in the previous episode, huntsman guy, Graham, that's his name, he wanted her to become his deputy, so she takes him up on the offer, and as soon as she clips on her deputy badge, like a huge explosion happens. And it turns out those old mining tunnels, like,
they're filled
partially
with sassy black fairies that explode randomly.
That would have been awesome. She puts on the badge, and just the fair, or no, right before she puts on the badge, I think you should put on the badge. And then she puts on the badge, and it's oh, it must have been the mines.
Sassy Black Fairy comes back and is like, hey, I'm better now, and she puts it on and she explodes. Anyway, so there's old mining tunnels that partially collapse, and Regina wants to bulldoze them. And she picks up a piece of glass, and automatically Henry's like, oh, she's hiding something, she picked up glass! Oh, the curse is real!
There's something important down those mines.
Yeah, so he has this in his head that, like, the mines are important. So Regina tells Archie to, like, stomp out Henry's delusion that of the curse, or she will ruin his life, Archie's life, you know. She's already ruining Henry's life. She doesn't need to anymore. But, so, you know, Archie's kind of a pushover at this part of the story. So he's like, okay. So Archie is like, Henry, the curse isn't real. You're delusional and and so Henry runs off crying. He goes to Emma's place, Emma and
Mary Margaret.
Mary Margaret. I keep wanting to say fairy tale names. Mary Margaret's house, and he's crying. And so Emma goes and like yells at Archie, like, what are you doing? You told me not to do what you just did. And when Henry came to Archie's therapy room place before, he had candy bars, and Archie's like, oh no, you're like going in the mind. You have flashlights and stuff. Don't do that. And that's when he was like, delusions, blah, blah, blah. So Emma, after she yells at Archie, it's interrupted by a call from Regina, and she says that Henry is missing. And so Archie's like, oh crap, I know where he is. So they go to the mine because Henry's like, I'm going in the mine because the curse is real and my mom's hiding something and she's an evil queen, blah, blah, blah. So Henry finds another piece of glass, and similar to the one that Regina picked up before. And there's a cave-in by the entrance as Emma and Archie are trying to find him. And I guess Archie's reaction to the cave falling is to go inside the cave. So then he gets trapped in with Henry. And Emma and Regina agree to work together in order to save him. But they try using dynamite at the entrance of the mine, but it doesn't work. And it kind of actually hurts because Archie's trying to like go up a elevator or something. And then when they use the dynamite, it makes him fall. So good job with that. But Pongo, which is Archie's dog, I miss the dog.
Just a Dalmatian, by the way.
It's so cute.
But
they need
the cricket can't have a dog. That just doesn't make any sense. He'll eat whatever.
So they find the dog finds an air shaft, which is the same shaft that Archie and Henry found when Archie like fell because of the dynamite. And Archie and Henry have a little heart-to-heart, and Emma goes down the shaft and rescues...
Oh, yes, she goes
down. No, I knew you were gonna... I knew it! Anyway.
She goes down the shaft,
No!
She gently goes down the shaft.
And rescues Henry and Archie!
And you called me out for my ill thing.
Well, to be fair, to
laugh as I said Emma goes down the
To be fair,
Mike is 12.
They said shaft in the original as well, okay? And I had the exact same...
How will I get her to eat my forbidden fruit?
Taste my forbidden fruit,
Taste my forbidden... There are a lot of double entendres. Anyway, Archie stands up to Regina and is like, okay, you know what? No, I'm not your pushover anymore, okay? And I will treat Henry however I want. And then Regina's like, humph, and haruffs. Haruff. As she tosses the piece of glass that she found into the air shaft, and it bounces off what is clearly Snow's glass coffin.
Oh, that's what it was.
And this is the first indication that we have that this is probably legit. The curse is actually real.
Yeah, because before, like, I actually felt kind of bad for Regina before because she was talking about, Henry. I can't do anything without Henry thinking that I'm hiding something or that I'm evil. And I was like, okay, that's
kind of true.
Yeah, but then once the coffin was there, I was like, oh, you bitch, you are hiding something.
And what's funny is that like Henry briefly picks up another piece of that glass and then drops it because the extra cave-in happens, and he starts running.
Well, even if he kept it, what the hell would that have proven?
He could have stabbed her.
No,
he found glass, therefore the curse is real.
It had the twig pattern on it. I'm betting if he had actually looked at it, he would have gone looking for it. Couldn't look for more of it.
Underground for there's like a 500-mile shaft there that the glass falls down. He never would have found it.
That's true.
Oh, and there was a minor subplot going on where Mary Margaret is, she volunteers at the hospital where David is, and was... I kind of liked that they were playing Hangman, and then she was like, "Oh, I lost." Yeah.
I would have kept adding more things. I would have added a horse.
Yeah, and I was like, "A horse, a horse, of course." But then David's, wife comes and is like, "Remember all these things?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." But then later he's like, "Nah, I don't remember anything of that, Mary Margaret. Like, I don't remember who names a dog that. Jesus Christ."
Mm-hmm. And then,
I still don't get why he has a dog. I mean, it's like. What if they go back to That's
a different dog, dude.
Whatever.
That's not Archie's dog. There are two dogs.
Why does
believe
he
it
have
or
a
not.
dog? If they go back to Storybrooke, Prince Charming might get eaten by a dog.
No.
Charming's a cricket. Anyway, and it was kind of weird. Like in front, David and Mary Margaret are taking a walk, and then David's wife is like, come on, David. And then David's like, I'll see you tomorrow, Mary Margaret. Like in front of his wife. And Mary Margaret's like, okay. And then she resigns as a volunteer at the hospital because she's like, I can't take all this sexual tension. And then that's
and David starts his path of being a douchebag.
Yeah.
Yep. He starts earning his nickname. This occurred to me when I was rewatching the episode. If Snow White's coffin is at the bottom of that shaft, doesn't that mean that Maleficent is too?
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
Isn't that where Maleficent is?
There's a lot of
Which
stuff
means
down there, I imagine.
that entire mine complex connects to the building in the center of town.
Yeah, I was actually noticing that because, okay, she clearly drops the glass straight down, all right, and it hits the coffin. It's out in, like, the middle of nowhere, but then she walks into a building with Emma, and Emma goes down the elevator in the finale to fight Maleficent, and the coffin's right there.
Yep.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't notice
It's a little bit of a geography hop.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering if Maleficent is trapped in the real world then as a dragon. What if she caused the earthquake?
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
wouldn't
true.
she? But on the other hand, wouldn't she be causing more than one earthquake if she's like rattling around down there? She's
Well,
a freaking
true.
dragon.
I'm a dragon, and slam me.
Well, it
in the
could have
Emma's
been something
probably-
along the lines of she wasn't actually doing anything, but maybe it was as the curse is starting to weaken, she didn't so much awaken as she did kind of stir a little, and that stirring caused it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or she farted.
Yeah. I also was thinking, Snow's coffin. Is this also proof that Storybrooke is fairy tale land? That in the real world, like basically, with Rumpelstiltskin's episode when he decides to make the curse or whatever, he's like, you would, destroy this world forever to try and find your son, and he's like, yeah. And that line, when I watched this again, I was like, wait a minute. Maybe and they don't go back to fairy tale land at the end of the finale. So maybe, that was the first hint that, yeah, this is actually what fairy tale land has become. And it's not just that they're in a different land.
Absolutely. Because like I said before, the lake became the well.
Yeah.
I mean, this is clearly but can it turn back? I'm betting it can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But,
Eventually.
There's a bunch of
Maybe.
things thoughts that came to me, and I know we have limited time, but first of all, the whole having no crickets in Storybrooke thing, very confusing to me, because how did Henry figure this out? Because he clearly knew it before coming to the session that he had with Archie, but why did he focus on that? Why did he notice this like it was a big deal? And also, why are there no crickets in Storybrooke? Like I understand like it's strange and that means that the curse has affected it, but why crickets? I don't understand that.
Like that's why I looked crickets up, because I was like,
Right.
well, maybe there's like a significance there, and I didn't really see anything beyond that. Like in general, that chirping crickets will signify like a change in good fortune, like literally like money is coming to you or something, and that's kind of the only thing that I found, which doesn't really make sense.
I just
Except,
have to wonder if Henry was like specifically being like, I wonder if there's any crickets. He listens out his window. There are no crickets. The curse is real.
Well, here's the other thing too. Apparently, like Henry has been in Regina's custody since he was like 3 weeks old or something like that. So he's never known anything else but Storybrooke. So how would he
why would
even
he
like
notice?
notice that?
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
just
why
another
the
thing
whole-
where Henry's just like, I know everything and you guys know nothing and I'm the one who knows everything.
yes,
crickets, the curse is real.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
but I did think it was kind of neat that once Archie stood up for himself, then the crickets came back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was cool.
Like,
I mean,
that was
that's
a
the
nice
reason
little
why
touch.
they introduced the plot point of there being no crickets, but in the long run, it's just kind of odd,
On that little bit of him challenging Regina, that was you start getting the sense when he challenges her, she's completely affronted, and you get this sense from her of, again, what is it with everything turning against me suddenly? Like
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
still not quite cluing in, and she's getting hit after hit. Everything has been working for 28 years, and all of a sudden they're falling apart. And it's like it's clearly frustrating her.
And plus, especially not even that people are standing up to her, but also that they're winning. Because Archie's like, you might actually be, in a custody battle, and then they consult an expert most often with these things, and especially one who's treated the child. So you might not want to mess with me. And and she can't argue with that. And so it's not even that like people are standing up to her or like arguing with her when they didn't used to. It's also that they're winning.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and that's like
That's
endlessly frustrating.
That's not what the deal was that she made. She was like, everybody else is supposed to be miserable except me, and now everybody's kind of getting their happiness back.
Yeah.
This is more of an Easter egg than anything, but it becomes a running thing. This is the first episode where we see the Apollo bar from Lost. The Henry drops the candy bar called the Apollo bar outside the tunnel, which is how Archie knows that he went in there. Also, underground tunnel with light emanating from it magically. Mike, did you get any kind of like? Did that remind you of Lost?
I didn't. I don't remember there being any light in there though.
They look in the thing and there's a light. And Archie's like, no, you shouldn't go down there and look. And
yeah, I
like,
mean, yeah, no, I mean, a little bit, yeah, but I didn't really make the connection. I don't.
I'm just saying that it reminded me of Lost. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that. I'm not saying there must be a significance to it.
Oh yeah, no,
one-
I doubt any of the Lost stuff has any significance. It's not like there's going to be this magic plot twist where we find out that Jacob has like instituted this entire thing, and he's actually,
Yeah.
where there's this crossover. So no, I don't think it's actually important, but I don't know if that could be a thing, or it might be an unintentional reference to Lost.
Yeah, it's probably very unintentional, but I just wanted to throw that out there. But one more thing, and this is more significant. Regina wanting to like. She specifically wants to explode things to get them out, and it happens to coincide, as you said, with Archie trying to escape up the shaft, and it causes them to stop. And we know that she's aware of how things happen. Like she just seems to magically be aware. And there's something about the way she acts in that sequence where she's like, "I want to blow it up" or something like that. It feels like she's intentionally sabotaging Henry's escape. To me, I don't know if it felt that way to you guys.
No, I
No?
don't think she knew what was going on.
Okay, it just felt, I don't know.
I don't understand what you mean though by saying that she usually does know that kind of stuff.
She usually just magically knows where people are and what they're doing.
Because she has allies like the mirror guy. I think that's what that was. I don't think, and that's around town and everything. I don't think that she magically knows these things or anything. And I don't think she has cameras or anything like that in the mines. No.
Okay.
I also, when I first watched it, and I realized that that it was the glass coffin at the bottom. My initial thought was that she wanted to, bulldoze it and dynamite it and everything because she wanted to hide the fact that the coffin was there. Because maybe if Mary Margaret found it and touched it, she would remember. So that that was my initial thought watching it for the first time. Obviously, like now it's a little bit of a different story. But
I wonder why the coffin survived the curse.
Yeah.
Same reason the dragon did?
Yeah.
Well, that would if the coffin was located at the same place as the dragon when the curse hit, sure, maybe. But I don't.
It's the only explanation I can think of. If the dragon survived, then other things could
But
have survived.
that was intentional. That was Regina's design for it.
Could it maybe be because it's probably created by dwarven magic, and as we've kind of seen, a lot of dwarven magic-based things seem to not necessarily outright survive, but seem to come through only modified or changed and not completely perverted.
Yeah, I think things affected by magic in some way, like the dolls that are Geppetto's
But
parents.
the coffin was never magical.
But it was made with,
We don't know that it was never
stuff.
magical. Did we know?
Well, okay,
how
but
it
we
was...
were never given any indication that the coffin was anything more than just a coffin.
Yeah,
maybe it was a Rumpelstiltskin thing. Maybe it was because Rumpelstiltskin has, charming sword in his shop, and he
I'm
has
not
the
saying
dolls
there
and
aren't
everything.
possibilities for it. I'm just saying why. We don't know why.
No, we don't. But it's possible that it's something that like Rumpelstiltskin might have influenced, is what I might have said.
Maybe, yeah. We
I
don't know what
why he
happened with
would
the coffin
have.
after that scene with it,
So I think it was more in there because it's more of a reveal to the audience than anything else for that.
I don't know, but I think Super Pumpkin will get to the bottom of it.
Yeah,
Super Pumpkin.
literally. Yes, she will. Literally, Martin.
Katie, name information stuff?
No, not for this episode.
You didn't have anything?
No, I didn't.
Super Pumpkin, the relevance of that.
Super
That'll be for
Pumpkin-
next episode. We got to give her some
That'll be
time.
the next episode. There is so much depth I can read into it that I just need so much more time than what we
Okay,
have.
so I think the S in super kind of signifies like a dragon because it looks like a dragon, the letter S. And,
Oh
and
my
she
God,
fights
I
a
didn't see
dragon.
that.
See?
Also, the
curse
Great
is-
Pumpkin was a very powerful mythological character, and obviously she has the power to break the curse.
Because she's a pumpkin and also super.
And there is
Yes.
Snoopy and Charlie Brown, and Snoopy is a dog, and there are dogs in Once Upon
And
a
the
Time.
dog's going to eat Jiminy Cricket.
There's
Oh,
also
no.
Snake, and we know that Regina's a complete snake, and really Gold is too. And she's here to foil both of them.
There's so
Let's
much
just
depth.
write the Wikipedia page.
This is the most amazing, in-depth observation and analysis I've ever seen in my life.
This is how we should set the
We're so
timeline out.
sprat.
This is how the timeline should be set out. The middle point, there should be pre-Super Pumpkin and post-Super Pumpkin.
You know
the
what?
central timeline.
All right, I'm just going to say this. It must have really hurt for Snow to give birth to the super pumpkin.
Well, it's okay. The Super Pumpkin will go down the shaft quite easily.
No!
Why did you guys laugh at that and not laugh at my joke about
Because I combined Super Pumpkin
Oh,
with your terrible joke.
Yes.
I didn't sign up
Everything's
for this.
funnier with Super Pumpkin.
I
Yes.
didn't ask for this.
When I agreed to do a Once Upon a Time podcast, this is not what I signed up for. I don't have these mental images.
You're trapped now, dearie. All right. So one other thing before we finish up for real, I just want to say that it is highly likely that our next episode will be a little bit late, only probably by a couple days due to scheduling conflicts. But we will get it out as soon as we can, and
That's
hopefully
what she said about Super Pumpkin.
and hopefully, yes, that's exactly what Snow said when she was giving birth to Super Pumpkin. Just get this out as soon as I can,
There's highly likely there'll be delays.
Yeah, but so while the next episode might be delayed, hopefully after that we'll be back to our Thursday or Friday-ish release for episode 5 of The Curse is Real.
Katie, would you like to close us off like you always do?
Sure, why not? We are Once Upon a Time fans, and you are listening to The Curse is Real.
You're listening to a Once Upon a Time podcast. The Curse is Real.
Tune in
You're
next
listening
time.
to Super Pumpkin.
Tune in next time. Same pumpkin time, same pumpkin
Pumpkin
channel.
channel. Oh no.
Super.